Hey guys, Scott here. Today I want to talk about how patch 5.4, which is the release of the Artist and Flavortown guy, is basically the patch of holding W, which I think is like one of the worst parts about the game. It's mostly due to the fact that that is the correct counterplay to this killer, and also there's another perk that they released that is the definition of a hold W perk. So these two things combined makes me really. Otofu did a really good video about this topic a while ago, where he made a video about how new killer design incentivizes anti-looping basically. So these killers don't really have too much of like a presence on the map, but they're really good in the individual like 1v1 in terms of denying loops. And so the correct counterplay to a lot of these killers is simply running away from the loops. You just hold W. That's not to say that these killers have no counterplay. The holding W thing is very good. In fact, it's one of the strongest things in the game. I've made videos about this years ago even. Holding W has always been insanely strong in this game. Holding W, if you're not aware, is essentially you just use your movement speed to just run on a straight line compared to the killer's movement speed. And when they hit you, you use that movement speed even further to just gain even more and more distance just by doing nothing. You're not interacting with a pallet, a window, anything. You're just holding W in a line. It's very, very strong. And this killer really, really incentivizes you to just hold W because you can't loop this killer. You just can't. It doesn't work. Here's an example of how you actually just simply cannot loop this killer whatsoever. So this is how you play Shack with this killer. You basically just block off their entranceway, you block off the doorway, and then you block off that pallet. Now, if I was a better player right now, I'm really bad at this killer. I still have a lot to learn. So if I was better, I could immediately launch this crow because he just ran past it, and I could have just downed him right there. Because at that range, the crow will actually down, it will injure people. So I could have just downed him there. But let's say I fuck up. I play badly. I make the wrong call. Well, if he tries to continue looping me instead of just running away, well, now he runs into this crow, and now he's got the crows on him, and he's just stuck. He can't leave. He can't go this way. He's got crows on him, so if he runs into any of these crows, he just dies. So he's just stuck. This is what he gets for looping me. He just can't do anything. That's the problem with this killer. You can just wall off the exits, and if the person actually tries to loop you, which is like the only skillful thing survivors can do. I know killers scoff at me when I say that, but I promise you there's a difference between a bad looper and a good looper. There is a skill gap there. In fact, it's the only skillful thing survivors can do, unless you're saying that holding W is skillful. So the survivors can't do that, which means the only thing that they can do is just run in a straight line away from you, which was pretty effective. Like, I still lost games and stuff like that because people would just leave the loops. But it was just mind-numbingly boring on both sides. I was just holding W. I'd block off a loop. They'd see I block off the loop, and then they just keep running further away. And eventually I'd hit them when they just stopped gaining enough distance. But, it could still take a while. And the problem, this is not a measure of strength. Like, this killer's not overpowered or anything like that. It's just not good design. It's the same philosophy where they just deny the ability for the survivors to loop, but they still don't really have any 4v1 potential. I know people are showing, short clips of doing like double hawks at generators. I'm telling you right now, not only is that a gimmick, but people will be able to respond to that in time. And just shooting off hawks or crows to distant generators, it's great for detection and knowing where people are. That's a really nice feature. But the time it takes you to pull out a crow, shoot the crow, gain your movement speed back is about the same time it takes for it to travel and then also for them to remove the crow. So you're not really gaining any time when you do that. You're just finding out where someone is, which again is useful, but it's not a 4v1 map presence or anything like that. So this killer really just specializes at completely dismantling loops. Like, you can't loop the killer at all. There's no scenario in which you can loop the killer because you just block off all the exit with crows. And you don't even have to play well. Like in that Shack example, I played badly. I could have shot off my crow and damaged him and downed him even sooner. But it didn't matter because he just ran into the crow and then he got crows on him and then both the other exits were still blocked off. And so he just died. There's nothing he can do about it. And I think that is the problem. So this player played correctly. He saw that I did that and just ran away. And then I'm just going to do it here. And then he's just going to run away. Like, the actual looping of the killer, if you try it, it doesn't work. You just get hit. So the only option survivors really have is to just run away. And even if you do screw up and you don't hit like one of them, if you get the crows on them at the very least because they run into them, then you can do this like shotgun shit where you just do 3 crows in like a cone. And, that just pretty much guarantees you're not going to miss. So the correct counterplay is just running to another tile over and over and over again, which I know people hate hearing this phrase, but that's boring. It's boring for me as a killer. It's boring for survivors because they don't get to do anything. So this is just a patch of just holding W to counter, and I just hate that. Additionally, there's a perk that came out with this patch called Overcome, which doubles the speed burst duration you get from getting injured. So it is the definition of an hold M1 perk. That is exactly what this perk is. It's entirely dependent on you just gaining maximum distance by holding W when you get hit. This is already a problem without this perk. You gain 20 seconds of distance running in a straight line. That is a long time to not even use a pallet or a window or any resource. You just gain 20 seconds of distance when you get hit by a killer. Now, of course, some killers like Blight can circumvent this, and that's why I think Blight is a very well-designed killer. But most killers don't have an option for this, so the survivor just gains 20 seconds of distance. With Overcome, you gain 40 seconds of distance now. If you get hit, you can literally run from one end of Red Forest to the other corner in one, like before the killer can get to you again, you can run the entire distance of Red Forest corner-wise. And that is insane to me. Now, obviously, it's not always going to be where you're in a scenario where you can run forward for 40 seconds. Of course, not every map is Midwich, and there's going to be times where the killer can try to cut you off and stuff like that. But you know that. As a survivor, if you are in a corner where the killer can cut you off, you can position yourself to intentionally get hit while you're facing the rest of the map, and then you're just gone. If the killer commits to that chase, they just lose the game. Like 40 seconds every time that happens, you just can't do that. So Overcome basically magnifies the biggest problem with this game, which is the amount of power you have from getting hit and just holding forward. It doubles that. And I even compared, it's better than Sprint Burst, actually. If you get hit with Sprint Burst and you get hit with Overcome, I compared them, and with Sprint Burst, I was hit in about 32 seconds, and with Overcome, I was hit in 40 seconds. And now, when I said this, people say, okay, well, what about if you use Sprint Burst properly? You don't get hit, you use your Speed Burst first. So that's what I did in this clip. I used my Speed Burst first, and then I got hit, and then I kept running, and again, this was about 32 seconds. So Overcome, it beats it every time. Here, just to show you that it's the same duration, so we're at 33 seconds. And then, Overcome was 40 seconds. So in that scenario, even with a properly used Sprint Burst to gain distance, you still gain more distance from Overcome. And the best part about Overcome is you don't need to walk around the map to save your Sprint Burst. Yeah, you can 99 Sprint Burst and things like that, but that means you're not doing anything useful. You're just running around the map. 99 Sprint Burst is a cool gimmick, and it works a lot of the time, but it means you're not repairing gens, you're not sitting still, because obviously then you're going to lose that last 1%. So it's sort of a situational thing. With this perk, you don't have to worry about it. You just always get that benefit every single time. Like, I would rather have someone's dead hard to a pallet than see them get 40 seconds of distance for me just simply hitting them. I think that's infinitely more frustrating than a dead hard to a pallet or something like that. So I am not really happy with this Survivor perk at all. I think it exemplifies the worst part about the game, which is just holding forward. And, it's definitely, it's got its own drawbacks too. For example, if the killer is a one-shot, obviously Sprint Burst is better. But other than that, there's really not too many scenarios where I wouldn't want to take this perk over Sprint Burst because I have free control of running the entire map. Like, I don't have to worry about that percent going away. Now, I would make the argument in a very coordinated team where you have perfect communication, Sprint Burst might be a bit better because you can know when you have downtime to regenerate. But in like just a solo queue match or even just playing with one or two friends or something, I think that Overcome is as useful as Dead Hard, which is saying a lot because Dead Hard is insanely strong. So Overcome incentivizes you to hold W for 40 fucking seconds. It's such a long amount of time. And also the killer itself incentivizes you to hold W because you can't loop the killer. So that's why I'm just saying this is the patch of holding W, which that's fucking Snorefest for me, man. I think that's not very interesting. I think going for very fun stuff with this killer is a really cool style of play, like just going for multiple snipes and stuff like that, but it doesn't work really because if you get a perfect snipe and someone's really far away, they can typically cleanse the crows on them before you can get another long-range snipe, so you're not even incentivized to do cool long-range shots unless they just don't cleanse their crows for whatever reason. So you're really just incentivized to do this whole like play style where you're essentially just trapper almost. You're just putting traps in doorways and blocking off loops. And if they eventually run through one of them, then you can use your triple shotgun crow thing to guarantee hit through any wall. So, yeah, I think the killer... I need to play the killer more to make a full opinion on the killer itself. But I really do think this is the patch of holding W, which I'm not really super happy about. I'm curious what you guys think. I thought my reasoning was decently sound, but maybe I missed something super obvious. Like I said, this is all very new. I'm not trying to make any grand statement or anything like that. Opinions can change very quickly. These are just first impressions. But that's it, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate it.